There's this story I want to talk about a man at the beach. The wind kind of comes and tugs at his rain jacket. A bit of the seawater whoosh, splashes against his face, and yet he just sits there, unfazed, not moving. So naturally the question is raised of who is he? How did he get there? Why is he so thoughtful? Now, I was about 12 or 13 years old on a long-haul flight across the Atlantic Ocean. And this was back in the days when you had about 5 or 6 movies that were playing on a continuous loop. You couldn't start Captain America and then switch to an episode of Murder, She Wrote, then go back to Captain America and rewind, find your favorite parts, and finish it all up in a nice bow. You couldn't pause or rewind. You couldn't fast forward. All you could really do was play.
What? I'm busy.
And after working my way through most of the movies, the seatbelt sign dinged on. Dinged on. The seatbelt sign dinged on. And the flight attendant came laboring up the gangway, pushing this rattling cart. It was time for lunch. And I was pretty excited, you know? It's like, awesome, get my food. Put it on the little fold-out desk, right on. But then I was a little bit disappointed because the food was it was only like half thawed. It kind of had this taste reminiscent of as if they dunked it in the jet fuel. So as I'm trying my best, I flip through the channels and I come upon this foreign language film that's kind of partway through its loop. As someone who'd never before seen a film with subtitles, I was a little bit skeptical, but I thought, okay, might as well give this a try, right? Now, the subtitles were really small. I'm kind of leaning into this tiny screen trying to make it out because this movie wasn't like the other ones. This was the story of Jean-Dominique, sometimes referred to as Jean Do, who was once the editor-in-chief of Elle magazine.
Oui, j'étais rédacteur en chef du magazine Elle.
Okay. But then he has a stroke and his whole life is flipped upside down. He becomes paralyzed with what they refer to as locked-in syndrome. An assistant recites the alphabet and Jean Do blinks stop. And eventually Jean Do even comes to write a autobiography about his life. Now the film was using a technique which we in filmmaking call POV, or point of view shots. And this is basically where the camera is from Jean Do's perspective, looking out at the people and places and things going on around him. And so through this process I began to experience with Jean Do a little bit of what it felt to be fed and clothed, what it felt like to have these foreign pair of hands brush your teeth, wash your face, even scrub your body to all the, well. And after these moments with Jean Do, that's where I found him at last, sitting at the beach, just staring. Now, although I'd never been physically paralyzed, I'd definitely felt paralyzed at times by self-doubt or fear or even loneliness. But although Jean Do was trapped, basically confined to this diving bell, but his mind still continued to flutter and to daydream and to be filled with hope like a butterfly. And then again the cart comes rattling by. And so for this moment I have to leave Jean Do, my headphones dangling, and the flight attendant asks me, "What do you want to drink?" And I say, root beer. And the flight attendant's like, "Oh, we don't serve beer to kids?" I go, "Oh, Coke then." Oddly enough, this time there was no confusion, and pretty soon I have my Coca-Cola in hand, and I jump back into the movie.
Écrit Durand, Très bien, Monsieur Bolton.
But Jean-Do was struggling at this point. He's getting really sick. His friends come to visit him, but they don't really know what to do or what to say or how to act around him. And I was a little bit reminded of my great uncle, who, although not fully paralyzed, was somewhat locked in and unable to communicate with the people around him. Jean-Do's friends and family shuffle awkwardly into the room. And yet, when I saw my uncle again, I thought that I'd know how to respond to him. I'd know how to communicate with him. After another moment, the film was over. And just as Jean-Do had sat and stared at the beach, I was left to sit and stare at the credits, pondering. And then again, the fasten seatbelt sign dinged on. And this cart comes rattling back up the gangway again. And dinner was served, but I felt like I had already eaten.
Fini le plateau télé. Où est-ce que je pourrais dîner ce soir? J'ai envie de quelque chose de bon.
See, we understand the importance of a good meal. We don't just eat food that sustains us, that kind of barely gets us through life, but we eat food that we enjoy and food that really nourishes us. And stories are kind of like food for the soul. When we find a good story, we sit at the dining room table and we share it, we connect, we empathize with one another, we grow in our understanding. The story tastes good, it nourishes us, it sustains us, it really fills us with life, it shows us that we're valued. And so we have just one more. Now the credits finished, and at last I saw the title, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. And the loop started over, beginning again. And so I sat back, pulled the shade down, and settled in to watch it again, just once more. And that's how you get stories like Grapes.